right. Well, we'll get started. I just want to honor everyone's time tonight. Okay, so this is chapter 7, and it is positive intent, turning resistance into cooperation. So this is another one of those chapters that is going to be challenging and probably stretching us a bit, but that is okay because it's always good when we're challenged. It helps us to dig deeper and kind of look at our practices and see how we can be better. And it's always important to look back and go, how can I'm always growing as a parent, even to adult children and as a teacher. So this is so good when I make these PowerPoints and dig in for myself, because when we are running on fumes and we're tired, our best selves don't come forward. So here we go. Let me dive in here. And of course, if you have any questions, just always let me know, but we can always revisit them at the very end as well. Okay. So what we're going to learn in this chapter is how we as adults can attribute positive intent to challenging scenarios and how we can transform opposition into cooperation. And that is easier said than done, I realize, but I think it starts with us. I've said that all along. When it comes to this whole conscious discipline, if we are not in a place of consciousness and calm, and we go into the behavior and we are upset, it's going to pass on to our kids. And so it really starts with us. And once we are calm, we can actually our brains are online, and then we can actually handle the behavior and help our kids learn the skills that they need in order to continue to grow and evolve and change with their behavior. So inner speech. This is really interesting. Inner speech is something that what we have as adults, we get that when we're past, kind of like those later, maybe 10, 11 and on, we continue to develop it. It's basically an inner speech. It plays a vital role in how we think and behave. So when something happens and we kind of can tell ourselves, we can rehearse the scenarios in our brain, and then we're unable to avoid rash actions. But it can also shape how we see the world around us. So that's the thing is kids that are 5 years old don't really have that yet. And so the inner speech is super, super important for kids. In order to create that inner speech, they're able to then in turn make a decision based on, they're self-monitoring, self-awareness. And kids that are 5 don't have that. So basically, children of the age of 5, I love this visual. They have not developed inner speech and communicate mostly through actions. They might say words that are hurtful. They might lash out and try to hit you when they're angry. But instead of processing whatever they've been asked, like a demand or some hard situation, they tend to go right to physical or yelling with words and hurtful. And I deal with that all day in the classroom. That's exactly what happens. And so my job, instead of punishing them for doing those things, I stop, I take a deep breath, and I go in and I handle kind of okay, what are they missing that they don't know how to do in order to help them figure out the situation? So that is, that's the challenge. And I think it's just helpful for us as adults to know that our kids, when they're young, they don't have that inner speech. They don't have that process to say, that wouldn't be a good idea to yell at my friend and tell them that they're the meanest ever, or, oh gosh, I don't think I should hit anybody because that would be really unkind. They don't have that inner speech. And so then they're stopped from making those decisions. So in the book, it talks about the birthday cupcake scenario. And basically what it talks about is that the child wants the cupcakes all for themselves. It's their birthday and they think all the cupcakes are for themselves. And they don't want to share with friends. And the thing is, when we attribute negative intent to others, we subtly are attacking them. So we're going to kind of go over a little bit of what that scenario looked like. So when we initially think, oh my goodness, they're being so selfish. Why are they taking all those cupcakes? And it kind of comes out in our tone and of the words we say, because maybe we're embarrassed, then that comes across as we're attacking our children. So the conflict mounts if you proceed with your own agenda without inspiring the other person to cooperate. So oftentimes, I think even as adults with, our partners, or even like interpersonal relationships, friendships, when we come in with our own agenda and we're not like just kind of coming to like a compromise and we don't talk about it, and we just like try to like go hard on somebody, it makes the conflict even bigger. And so in this scenario, it's just like the parent is super embarrassed that, how could you do that? How can you like need all those cupcakes? Like, we're sharing, of course. So in this scenario, this is the thing, why children must say no. Children need to say no sometimes in order to test their limits and the social rules that prevail. I mean, literally our kids, the second they first learn the word no, like when they're really little, I mean, sometimes we think it's cute. They're like, oh, they're saying no, but like they're actually starting to create what their world is looking like around them. They are like, we as humans are made to oppose in order to find out the boundaries, in order to continue to know what our way through life is and where to stop. And so we need to resist and oppose in order to find out where that line is. And that's why even, our kids were in the thick of it. They don't want to do what we ask them. And so we need to know the right ways in order to get the cooperation instead of them being like oppositional. So the problem is like a lot of times we respond in a way that teaches children to be more oppositional. So that power of attention we've talked about in the past, what you focus on, you get more of. So if you're focusing on the negative things, what they're doing, and that would play out just for me in the classroom. If like many children are talking and I'm trying to just quiet everyone's talking, stop talking. You're not doing it. You're standing up. I'm focusing on all the negative parts. They're going to do it more because they're realizing, oh gosh, that she's saying that, like she's calling attention to what I'm doing. And so instead, I literally have to stop and go, oh, you're sitting quietly. Your legs are crossed like this. Your hands are folded. And the next moment, I mean, everyone is just falling into line like, oh, I want to check in. I want to be quiet. Like they do it because I'm focusing on what I want instead of what I don't want. You imply, the thing is too, is a lot of times when we respond to kids, when they're doing something that is undesired for us, you're implying that they are deliberately making your life more difficult. It could be through our actions, our words, and why are you making me so angry? Why are you making this so hard on us? And so oftentimes that will become more of a problem because they sense that they're a problem and they don't know what to do. And I always tell families that behavior is communication. And if they're communicating something, it's because they're missing a skill. And we have to remember that kids need to practice the skill hundreds of times before it's actually in their head. And so oftentimes we're like, we told them that like 5 times. If they're not getting it, we need to think of creative ways in order to teach our kids. So behavior is an opportunity to teach, not to make our kids do something. We really want to teach them how to do it and how to be responsible. So here's the thing, even if you refrain from a direct attack on your child, your implication and tone can hurt them deeply. So that's a thing. We can actually have we're not saying the words, but we're gritting our teeth and our faces don't lie. And so if we're saying like, oh, you're listening right now, and where our face is very stiff and our body and our hands are clenched, our kids pick up on that. They know that you're actually still feeling very frustrated with them. And so that can really hurt them as well. And so we have to get in a place of calm. And even if that means walking away for a little bit and saying, I'm going to walk away, I'm going to get my body calm, I'm going to take a break and I'll be back and talk to you. That's what's going to help us and our kids in a better way, because if we can't download calm to them if we're not calm. And so that is the key. Like we have to be calm before we go in. And it's super hard when we've had a long day and they've, for a variety of reasons, we're exhausted, they're exhausted. Maybe you've been home with them for, days on end. And that can be so exhausting. And so sometimes removing yourself from the situation for a little bit and then coming back in, it clears your head. It gives you a break. Take some deep breaths and then go in and think more clearly. Oh, let's see. This just went backwards. Let's go back here. Okay, here we go. So shame and judgment. It's interesting because I've researched shame a little bit from the author Brene Brown, and she talks a lot about shame is when someone carries a lot of shame around on them. They have bought into the idea that they are a bad person. Like when you shame, often I think even sometimes we've heard, you got to be ashamed of yourself. I mean, like maybe our parents said that, or just saying things that are like, you're so bad, and so that literally translates to I'm a bad person. When someone feels guilt, they might not feel they're a bad person. They're actually they realize that their behavior was not correct. And so they want to change it. And so they're going to use that guilt in a positive way to change what they did. But when someone lives in shame, they literally are so paralyzed because they just basically say, I'm a bad person. And so we don't want to do that to our kids at a young age, because we don't want them to grow up feeling shameful because of the things we said when it's not really our intention, but sometimes I think we think of it that way. So the first point is when we are embarrassed and our ego gets intertwined with a scenario, we say and think and do things that can be so hurtful. This hits home because I know that sometimes we think, oh, I don't have a big ego, but you know what? When our kids are falling out on the floor in the middle of Target and they're having a big tantrum, our ego, we can have an opportunity to get up, stop it right now, because we're feeling embarrassed, stressed, nervous, or we can say, wow, you're having a really tough time. I'm with you. We're going to walk out of the store. You need to sit down. You're safe. I'm with you. That's such a difference between getting our ego involved and taking our ego out of it. In the birthday scenario, do you want all your friends to leave? That's from the book. Do you want to go to timeout on your own birthday? The mom's message is saying your actions are wrong. You are guilty and deserve punishment. So the boy was trying to influence others to make the world go his way. When he wanted all those cupcakes, he's trying to influence everybody. No, I should have all the cupcakes. It's my birthday. He sees it as very logical in the book. He thinks, why would I want to share them? And I know that sounds ridiculous, but kids do things like that. And you're thinking, why would they think that? I don't understand. But he's also learning that the world doesn't necessarily follow his rules, because in that scenario, it's okay, this obviously, and we have an opportunity as parents, if we want them to learn something different, we can actually help them by giving them skills and go, oh, this is what you were thinking. This is what is really happening. So the problem is that when you're saying, do you want all your friends to leave? Do you want to go to timeout on your birthday? Okay, no, that child does not want that. And they're going to be embarrassed by you even saying that now. So the problem is saying those questions, they're in an emotional state anyway. And so that's heaping shame on them to be I'm making a bad decision. And so there's other ways in order to lovingly, you could pull the child out and say, hey, you want all the cupcakes. What's going on? And the child might say, I'm so hungry and I love it. It's my birthday. And you could have a conversation. I know that can be so hard. Hey, you know what though? Your friends are here and they are super excited about having cupcakes too. Hey, you have a choice. We can either make cupcakes after the kids leave or we can make them tomorrow. What works best for us. But today we're going to all work on having the cupcakes. So it's just something like that. It's just having a conversation and not in front of everybody and not putting these shaming questions on a kid, because in that moment, it's super stressful for you and it's super stressful for them, even if it seems like their behavior is not very helpful. So here's the thing on the bottom. When the attack defend process gets rolling, communication and connection breakdown. I mean, that honestly happens in all relationships when people start attacking one another, and then you have to defend yourself. Because if you attack someone, why'd you do that? The person that got asked that feels the need to defend themselves. And then there's no communication or connection to have, like you're being disconnected. And the thing is, we want to stay connected to our kids. We want to stay connected to each other. We don't want that to get the ball rolling in that way. So here's the thing that they said in the book as well. You cannot simultaneously feel bad about what you have done and focus on what you must do differently. It gave this scenario of, okay, let's say that you're feeling like you have gained a lot of weight and you're feeling very heavy. You cannot focus on, I'm so heavy. I weigh so much. I weigh more than I ever have. And I'm going to start a new exercise routine. I'm going to be amazing. Those two thought processes don't work. You cannot simultaneously feel bad about what you've done. Like, oh, I'm the worst. I gained so much weight. And then, oh, but I'm going to be amazing. It's like impossible to do both. You have to have like change the positive behavior, like positive power of positivity. Which, by the way, that's a great Instagram follow. If you Power of Positivity has great quotes, but it is really amazing. You have to focus on what you want to do differently. You cannot simultaneously beat yourself up for something. Okay, so assigning blame fuels the fire. When you attribute negative motives to another person, the attack defense cycle usually escalates unless one person becomes aware of their actions or surrenders, which that neither one, I mean, aware of their actions is like helpful because you're like, wow, oh gosh, I just attacked you. I'm sorry, stop. If someone surrenders and they just go, fine, whatever you want, you're right. Well, that's not either. So we have to like stop the negative motives, like in assuming. I think the problem is a lot of times we as parents, we assume negative motives to our kids. And so oftentimes when I see it from a positive or just like a very, I don't really see negative behavior as negative or positive. I just go, oh, it's a behavior. What are they trying to get? What do they need right now? What is their motive? I'm in a place of not judging it, in a place from what I see as bad or good. And so that's like more helpful for me to see it that way. There is a more constructive way to handle situations that allows a child to maintain their feelings of worth and strength while shifting the course. And that comes from the power of love. It reminds us to see the best in one another. And so it comes back to what you focus on, you get more of. We want to see the best in one another, even when we're really super challenged. And that means we need to stay connected to our kids. And connected means we know them, we've spent time with them, we're not just barking out orders. We know what makes them tick. We know if they're hungry, we know if they're tired, we know if they're upset about something, and that's going to come out easier. So knowing our kids is super helpful. Okay, so attributing positive intent. You must start out by assuming your child's motives are positive. Okay, that's hard because in any situation, you're like, I don't understand why you would do that, right? Sometimes we just can't even see, why would you do that, right? In our brains, our brains go, why would you do that? That does not make sense to me. But you have to assume that they're positive. You're like, what did they want from that? Like, what was their goal for that? Instead of thinking they are bad and trying to make your life difficult, try a different approach. So here's the new mindset. My child is simply trying to achieve some goal, but lacks the appropriate skills to do so. That is so helpful for me because I'm like, oh, okay, they're missing a skill. They don't have the skill they need in order to do that. I mean, think about for me, like when I got kids coming in August in kindergarten, kids are coming from all different skill sets. Some academically are all over, the spectrum of, knowing letters to full reading. Some kids have a more, maybe a stricter home life. So maybe even their personality is more of a like rule follower. Then you get kids who are like, wow, they've never been told no, ever. They've never had boundaries, or maybe everything's really firm, or everything's overly kind. And so for me, I go, oh, okay, they're lacking the skills. What are they missing? And what do I need to teach? So behavior is, to me, exactly like reading, writing, math, science, behavior. It's literally like all things that I need to help them with. Behavior is just like an academic skill. I need to teach them things. So when you attribute positive motives to your child's behavior, you position yourself to teach and your child to learn. So, I think when we can, like, that's exactly what it's saying. It's like, if we can actually feel like that, our kids can feel it in us. If we are like kind of attributing the positive motives. Oh, wow. You didn't like the hair. This is a total random example, but you didn't want your hair in your eyes. So you cut your bangs up to the scalp. Wow. I can see how that, but then they have to live with the consequences, right? Their hair is now cut, right? And so, but like, and then getting angry at them, what's that going to do? I mean, oftentimes kids, there might have been a reason. I mean, my own daughter, I remember her cutting her hair and then hiding it in her, like in some wrapping paper in her bedroom. And she wanted side bangs. I don't even know what those are, but she wanted side bangs when she was 5. And I'm like, okay, you really, and then you know what? She cried for like weeks because she did not like her hair. And if she did not like her bangs, I'm like, that is, and then I could empathize with her. Wow, that is a bummer. But you know what? I think it's growing. I can pull it back in a ponytail today. But it's like we getting angry at them is not going to help them. It's just like, wow, next time you want to cut your hair, maybe ask me and I'll take you to the hairdresser, because that might actually be more helpful. So you have a haircut that you like, right? It's just kind of, that's just an example of what it looks like. Okay, so when you attribute negative motives to your children, you will tend to become upset. That's exactly connected. That's exactly what will happen. So then, from an angry and often out of control position, you will seek to punish your children with words, tone, or actions. So that's the thing. When we start seeing it, when we're judging their behavior as negative, well, then we become upset. And when our blood is boiling, oh, right, we're angry, we're out of control, and then all of a sudden things come out of our mouth that we don't like. I was telling the kids the other day about, it's spring and they know each other really well right now. And some of their tones and their words and their actions are a little bit less than friendly sometimes. They know each other really well. And so at this time of the year, things are coming out of their mouth that I'm like, wow, like, is that really helpful? That's kind of hurtful. So I talked to them about a tube of toothpaste. I said, hey, when you squeeze toothpaste out of a tube of toothpaste, once you take it out of the tube, can you get that back in very easily? And they're like, no. And I said, that is exactly like your mouth. When you spew words out of your mouth, you cannot take them back. And so you have to think and be smart. I tell them, because it's hard to fix a wrinkled heart. When you wrinkle someone's heart, you cannot just make it go away. So that's the thing with us. But it's, again, up to us. We have to be calm and not attribute the negative motives to our children. We have to take a deep breath, walk away if we need to, and then we need to see what their motive was. Seek to understand before we go and attack or blame them. Seek to understand what their motive was behind their behavior and what they did. Okay, so positive intent. We stay more calm. We can actually kind of smile a little bit when we attribute positive motives, and we feel more in control when we stay calm and when we're thinking positively. It's like, and it makes us think, because our brain stays actually online. Because literally it's like when a kid does something and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even possibly think of what would be positive in this, but my brain is scanning, like, what could be positive? What could be positive? I don't go offline, because I literally am thinking, okay, think of something that could be positive that I say. Oh, you really wanted to, do this. And so you did this. Like I say it, and then they kind of look at me like, yeah, that's what I was doing. And then I say, and then I go in to teach. Okay, the next time you do that, this is what's helpful. We cut paper, we don't cut our hair. That's not helpful. Okay, giving yourself a haircut at school is not helpful or safe. Your parents are not sending you here to school to get a haircut by yourself. Like that's like, so it's like positive intent. So yeah, that's helpful for me, because your brain stays online. We also send the message to our child that their inner core is good. We're not laying shame on them, and the actions they are choosing are not helpful. So we're sending a message that they are not bad. It's just, oh gosh, you wanted something and you did this. Let's try this. So with this setting, children are more willing to learn a new skill and listen to adult directions if we assign positive motives. If we don't, they kind of tend to shut down, they get upset, and we're upset. Your child will feel more empowered to be flexible and choose a better course of action. We want their brains to stay open for learning. We don't want to close them off, because then they're not wanting to learn and they have opposition and they're going to shut down from you whenever you are going to give feedback. We don't want that. We want them to be open to our learning skills. It's just, when do we give the learning skills? Okay, so unconditional love. We need the most encouragement when we feel unsure of ourselves, anxious, and inadequate. I mean, think about, as adults, don't we need the most encouragement when we're seriously down and down in the ground? We need encouragement. So our kids, they're little, and we need to remember, like, they need encouragement, not a lot of like harsh words, even when we're frustrated. Oftentimes it's easy to encourage our kids when they're doing what we want them to do. When you do what I want, you earn my love. And then we don't say that, but when we are viewing behavior as good or bad, and we're always praising them for doing, like, oh, when you do what I want, you earn my love. When you ignore what I want you to do, I withhold my love. So we want to not get in that pattern of them feeling like they're only feeling loved by us when they're like following our directions. It's like, we actually want to place it in a play of like the power of unity. Like, we're doing this as a family. This is helpful to our family. These are the expectations, what we do. And when they don't do something that's like helpful, or I call it unexpected behavior, we're not going to withhold our love. We're going to take a deep breath and we're going to teach them a new skill. So the thing is that I think many adults are walking around this earth that have internalized this thinking. When you do what I want, you earn my love. When you don't, I withhold my love. So what the problem is many of us as adults continue to desperately seek approval. We're pleasers, and we try so hard to please. We are seeking approval from our bosses. We seek approval, and we want to feel like we have a strong being. We do not want to always be seeking approval. Obviously, we want people to know us as doing a good job, but that's being just like responsible and knowing in ourselves who we are. And our inner speech is not like, I'm so stupid, I don't listen, I'm the worst. We want to seek approval in helpful, positive ways, not ways that are either shame-based, or we're feeling like we have to please somebody. We need to be strong, and we don't want our kids to just please us. Kids are continuing. I've shared this before. Do you like it? Do you like it? Do you like it? I'm like, do you like it? What do you think about it? And then I give them like constructive criticism, like, oh, wow, and I give them something specific. Hey, you really took time on drawing that shirt on that person. That must have taken a lot of perseverance. Instead of like, oh yeah, your picture looks great. Wow, you really followed my directions. I kind of go, wow, well, let's do a checklist. Did you illustrate your picture? Yes. Did you write your sentence? Yes. Did you put your name on your paper? Yes. Wow, you follow directions. That is so helpful. It's just kind of like being more specific in what our feedback is to our kids. So this is what kind of the theme of the night, but we need to attribute positive motives to all behavior. Actions we judge to be good, and actions we deem bad. We literally need to attribute positive motives to all behavior, all actions. Because the thing is, if we're like, it's all like, if we are judging, that we're the ones judging what's good and what's bad, and not everyone deems the same. And so we literally need to see the positive motives to all behavior. We're not deeming it good or bad. We just say, okay, you know what? This is a behavior, and how am I going to handle it right now? I need to think of it as positive and not negative. The power of positive intent. So these are the benefits when you use the power of positive intent. You uphold the highest image of yourself and others. You foster cooperation by joining with someone to solve a problem. That is so great when you can even foster the cooperation with your kids at an early age in order to solve the problem. And, it's going to get more sophisticated as they grow, but if you can enlist their help in solving a problem by giving them choices, or maybe you invite them to solve the problem with you, that is so helpful, because they're feeling secure in that you honor and you value their opinions, and that they're not just trying to please you and what you think is the most important thing. They're bringing them in on that. You foster a sense of security when they have, it feels like a safe environment to make a mistake. When you foster a sense of security, kids aren't afraid, like, is that good? Is that bad? What do you think? No, they're secure in knowing that they're not going to get their head ripped off when they spill their milk. It's like, oh gosh, you got excited about that song that was playing. And so you jumped up out of your seat and then the milk spilled. Okay, well, hey, what can we do? Oh, I can get a paper towel and clean it. Yep, that sounds great. They don't feel like they're a bad person because they spilled the milk off the counter, right? We don't want that. We don't want our kids to feel that way. You foster responsibility. We want to create in our kids a way for them to know how to be responsible. They need to have boundaries. They need to have chores. They need to know what it looks like to be a responsible member of the family. That's very important. Again, in my classroom, we all have jobs every week, and I expect them to clean up and do their job. And the classroom runs like a fine oiled machine every day. And I'm like, when I broke my foot, I was like, wow, they are just handling this. They know how to handle all the jobs. And because I just kind of little by little, just giving them responsibility, like, this is your job and this is what it looks like. I went slow in the beginning. This is what this job looks like. I modeled it. I taught them. If they needed help, I go over and teach them how to do it. You set your child up for a teaching moment when you have positive intent. We want our kids to be open. As they get older, they become less and less interested in learning from us. Take my advice. They don't want to learn from us when they're teenagers very much. But if we have created a safe environment, they will be open to those teaching moments, even in the teenage years. So I really encourage you now, this is the time to start thinking about those moments of positive intent in order to build that, because it cannot start when they're 13 and go, oh, no, it won't. You need to start teaching them now. You convey healthy responses to your child that will help them handle and embrace diversity. It's really helpful for them in just all ways. You encourage your child to develop their own will by acknowledging that they do not need to obey you in order to keep your love. We want them to have a will, and we want them to have they know their boundaries. So we actually don't want to break their will. We want them to have a will, but within the boundaries of love, and we want them to have unconditional love. We do not want it to be modeled that it's conditional only if you do what I say. We actually want them to have their own will with boundaries and know what's helpful to the family and how to be a responsible person in the family. So we really want to continue to model that. So steps to attributing positive intent. Describe your child's intent and their action. Describe it. So, oh, wow, you really wanted to, gosh, I'm going to think of something. Wow, you really wanted to find an outfit for today that looked great. So you took all your clothes out of the closet, right? It's like, oh boy, state the limit. So here's the thing, state the limit we only take out one outfit per day of what we're going to wear. Let me show you what that looks like now in order to pick our clothes out every day. So teach them what it looks like. And you can do it. Let's practice what it looks like to maybe pick out 2 outfits for tomorrow. And then you can choose one in the morning, what you want to wear. So it's kind of just like, it's listing, but you have to follow these steps because you want to describe it. Oh, your intent. Wow, you really wanted to, look great for school. So you ripped all your clothes out of the closet. That's not really helpful though. That's too many clothes on the floor now. What you need to do now, just make sure, what we need to do is we need to hang up all the clothes. And what we do is we only pick out 2 outfits for tomorrow. And then you can choose one and then the other one gets put away. All right, tomorrow, let's hang up all these clothes really quickly. And then tomorrow we'll pick out 2 outfits. So we'll be ready to go for school. So it's just like, it's kind of so different than, this is so totally different. What did you do? How could you? That was horrible. You took all your clothes out of the closet. That was so irresponsible. You're being so naughty. Oh my goodness, what am I going to do? You're making my night horrible. right? I mean, you can hear the difference. And just when we're at our worst though, that's what comes out of our mouth because we're so exasperated. Like, how could you take out all the clothes out of your closet? And so we literally, but these little steps can just help us stay on track. Okay. Make little notes for yourself around the house to kind of help you keep it simple, keep it short. Our kids actually need very much shorter statements, not lectures. They actually, when we start talking too much, they hear like the in the Peanuts, want, 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 want. They don't hear us anymore. We need to keep it very, very clear and concise. Pick up your clothes. You wanted to do this. Keep it very simple, like very simple sentences for them, because too much becomes overstimulating and they don't even hear us. So the beauty of redirecting children before they misbehave is that you give your child an opportunity to practice impulse control. So redirection skills are similar to earlier mentioned strategies, what the slide before, but you use them before the child breaks a limit. So here's the thing, if we're really in tune with our kids and we are like really connected, and I say connected, it's just like that we're not completely checked out of our life, and like our kids are just like on a device and we're not paying attention to them, and we're on our device and we're not even giving them any direction. Our kids need us. And so the beauty of is if we can start seeing things before they happen, you can actually give them impulse control. And so that's the great thing is we have eyes and we're attuned to what might just gonna, oh, I see that playing out. Hey, let me give you a little redirection right now before this happens, so that they are stopped before they do it. And they're gonna learn some impulse control. And instead of us now having to give like, a mini lecture or a full teaching moment, it might actually help us to be able to help them learn some impulse control on that certain skill. But here's the thing, because of the hectic pace of life today, parents are less and less available to redirect children. Usually a problem has already occurred before parents intervene. I think our society is just busy and we're kind of not attuned. We're checked out sometimes, and our kids are getting into things and doing things and saying things. And then we're on basically the defensive. We're feeling triggered by their behavior. And so we need to be attuned, ready, connected, and our children need to have our full attention when we are present. We need to be present with them. And that's not to say you don't need breaks. Take the breaks, go on, go out, go take yourself out on a date, go take yourself out on a night alone. You need those times too to be refueled. But when our kids are with us, we need to be attuned to them and what they need in order to teach them the skills. Parenting is hard, but we do need, we had them for a reason. We are developing citizens of this world. And if we are not doing our job, our kids are getting left to maybe a teacher having to raise them a little bit. We're actually having to have their peers might have more influence on them. And you know what? Bottom line is we are meant to be their parents, and we want to give them the best chance of being the best citizen of the world we can possibly be. And we're not going to be perfect, but you know what? They were put in your life for a reason. And so we want to do the best job we can. So in finally here, just remember to practice, practice, practice. It is okay to make a mistake, to not go the way you think it's going to go, to have a hiccup, to say something and whoa, why did I say that? That's not what I wanted to say. That's not the direction I wanted it to go. This completely backfired in what I was thinking. That is okay. We've talked about this before. You kids, I tell the kids, whoops, you had an oops moment. We had an oops, we forgot, recently they were having some kind of a little bit of some issues at the lunch tables, like trash wasn't getting thrown away. They were getting up without being told. And so we stopped, we practiced, and I said, okay, let's get back on track. All the lunch teachers are trying their best. You're going to try your best. Let's get back. So we practiced again. Let's practice sitting down quietly. Let's practice raising our hand before we get up, and we will do a better job. So it's really important to do that. So anyway, that is, I just went to the wrong slide here. Let's see, there we go. Okay. And then there we go. Our resources are here. I am a resource as well if you need anything. And our next book club will be Tuesday, May 17th at 6:30. And that's chapter 8. And then I will figure out the last 2 chapters, 9 and 10. I'll fill you in on when I'm going to do them. And then you're welcome to come on live, or I'll just send out the recordings as well for 9 and 10, since those will be kind of hitting the summer break. But I do want to see it through so that everyone has access to all of these and can always look back at them for your reference. So that is my presentation. Is there anything anyone needs?